Welcome to the Real Estate Show. From buying to selling and everything in between. Rochester's home for everything real estate. And now, your hosts from the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. It's Anthony Butera and Jason Mancuso.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 39 of the Real Estate Show. Anthony, you weren't in last week.
Correct.
But the week before we were doing like realtor questions from other real estate agents,
Yep.
right? So we have a couple more questions that we wanted to get to, and one is just about like Zillow and Trulia, and kind of like just the marketing for a real estate agent, how to get it, the strategy for that.
Zillow acquired Trulia, so they're two separate websites, same company.
Yep.
Realtor.com is a separate company, separate website. I would say those are the top three.
Yeah.
Top three. You get into Redfin. There's literally hundreds of them.
Yeah, if you were to just
Purple Bricks came out recently.
Yeah.
It's the trend. I mean, you can.
But they all do the same thing for the most part.
It's what it's meant to be is, if you're working with a realtor has you set up with a direct feed to the MLS, which is where all the properties are listed, and you're notified of properties as they come onto the market. You have, in some ways, access to your own personal website that's customized to the search. All these other third-party sites are essentially just taking the data from the MLS and creating a website off of it for the consumer to search on.
Yeah, they're incubation websites for tire kickers that hopefully eventually turn into serious buyers. Zillow's if you were to Google homes for sale Rochester, New York, and you looked at the top 10 results, you're probably going to get Zillow on there a few times, Trulia a couple times, Realtor.com a couple times, and then you might get some random paid Google advertising up top that somebody paid for that exposure. Listen, you take Google away, and it's funny, none of these companies really exist, but a lot of stuff doesn't exist if you take that away, just because it's the go-to search for everything, not just real estate. So Zillow is the Google of real estate, I would say, to compare the two. So,
for example, what do you want to call it? Pay-per-click, or advertising on Google, keyword stuff like that. We really don't get into that because, a platform like Zillow can accomplish the same thing because they're spending all the money to be at the top of that Google search.
Yeah.
Right?
So they're doing you the favor by already getting on top of it.
Yeah,
right?
in a way. Let's talk about the consumer first before we dive into the agent. But these websites for the consumer, I'll tell people it's a good resource, but it's not really a great resource.
Yeah.
Reason for that is that you have, the timing isn't always real time, and in the markets that we've lived in the last couple of years, sometimes there's a day or two or three lag from when a property is actually listed to when it pops up on some of these websites. So, in the market that we've been in, that house could have been sold on day one, practically speaking. And, if you're relying solely on these other websites, then you've already missed out on it.
Yep.
So it's good, tire kicker's one way to say it, but if you're just in the beginning stages trying to get a feel for a market, it's not a bad thing to dabble with these sites. At the end of the day, if you're relying solely on third-party websites to conduct your search, if you're a serious buyer and looking to do something right now, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah, I just remember, from the consumer's perspective,
Yeah.
buying my house, my wife and I, we looked at a bunch of stuff, but we didn't even look at the stuff we were looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't even end up looking at any of the things that we were, like you're saying, tire kicking. It ended up being, we ended up looking at 4 different houses that had nothing to do with what we were looking at to begin with.
And what it is, too, the just the way of the world, everybody has a freaking high-powered computer in their hands, and one of the hobbies, so to speak, is real estate for a lot of people, and they're able to get these apps on their phone and look up any property that they want and see, hey, my friend put their house up for sale. Let me see what it looks like, stuff like that. So it's a great free resource for the consumer to take advantage on, to kind of scratch the itch if they have to. But relying on it just to buy, that's your main source for buying a home, it's problematic in a lot of ways. So
I'll take it from where he said free, because they are the complete opposite of free. So Zillow, TrulyRealtor.com, consumer platforms, right? So what it does is, especially Zillow, where they drive traffic, is they will give what's referred to as the Zestimate, right? The value of your home. And we still, I'll sit down with people that are not, naive by any term, but they really will go off of, well, Zillow shows my house valued at this much. And then I immediately ask, when was your guys' appointment with Zillow? And who was the rep from Zillow that came into your home and told you what it was worth? I mean, really all they do is they're pulling algorithms of neighborhood statistics. The value really is just, it's...
can be up or down from what it's actually worth.
It could be spot on. Mm-hmm. It could also be off by 20% high, 20% low. Zillow doesn't know that the inside of your house is filthy and you're a hoarder. They know your square footage. They know price per square foot based on sales in your given area. But Zillow doesn't,
they don't know that you have like a sex swing installed in every room, that you're going to have to get rid of.
They do know that.
They know that. They peek through the window. They saw it.
It's bad value.
Zillow's an advertising website. So the only way that Zillow ends up on, I see them on their TV commercials. There's, a ton of advertising. They're at the top of the Google search list. That costs a lot of money. And Zillow went public a couple of years ago, and we've noticed a ton of changes in the platform from our end once it went public, right? So now you could buy Zillow stock, and the decisions are no longer the decisions of the CEO, Spencer Raskoff of Zillow. Jason and I actually had an opportunity. We sat and met with him. We took on a meeting in Boston that we were invited to, so it was like, hey, how often do you get in front of people like this? And he had a remarkable story, very intelligent individual, but the decisions are no longer his because you have to appease the stockholders, okay? Mm-hmm. So we were very successful for a couple of years. Our ROI, or return on investment, with Zillow / Trulia was very, very good, like worst zip. So what you do is you purchase market share zip codes. So each zip code has a percentage of market share that you can purchase. So we knew we were doing a bulk of our business. We wanted to make sure that we were there. We were popping up when people were searching for homes.
So this is you're buying the opportunity to have your listings on there,
to back up the train briefly, Zillow may seem like, or these websites, they seem like they're a platform to help the consumer out, but really they're for the agents, because the consumer has the choice to contact an agent. And then you're contacting, full disclosure, people like us. We use Zillow. And then the hopes is that we're working together. So it's a benefit to the agent more than it is the consumer. So that, leads into what he's getting into as far as why we invest into it, and that it does provide opportunities for us to gain clients from it. And it's a good thing. Overall, in theory.
Yeah, in theory, it's a good thing. So for us, as an agent, you don't have to spend a penny on Zillow. Here's the consequences if you don't. Whenever you have a listing that's on the market, somebody else's face and contact info are going to show up on your listing. So if a consumer has interest through Zillow, your contact info is not going to show up. There's going to be three other real estate agents' faces and contact information right there. So if they have interest and you're not what's referred to as a premier agent on Zillow, I think the threshold is like between $350, $400 a month to be a premier agent. Now that does buy you some advertising spend within a certain zip code. But with that being said, you have to spend a certain threshold to be protected for your listings. We right now, the way that the consumers are searching for homes, we have no choice but to be premier agents. If we're not, we're floating anywhere between 40 and 60 listings at a time. So that would mean that 40 to 60 listings are not going to be advertised with our contact info. That's way too scary to think about. And this is where like the data manipulation is a hot topic right now, right? I mean, CEO of Facebook, Zuckerberg, right? I mean, a lot of what he had to go and sit in front of, who do you have to sit in front of?
Senate?
Yeah, the Senate. So with them blasting him, a lot of it was about data manipulation. And that's what these companies, really, it's a ton of data manipulation, because think about this. We had to fight for those listings. We had to work for those listings. Now you get those listings because our MLS automatically syndicates those listings to these third-party websites, and we have to buy our own listings back. I know, it's extortion. How is it? You know what I mean?
Sure.
But with that being said, what do the consumers know of the website? It's a great place to just search for homes, and you don't have to, there's no commitment there. You don't have to commit to an agent. You can just search around, and if you find something you like, you contact the agent. I mean, hey, we pick up a lot of business that way. So I'm not going to hate on it, but what I can say is it's becoming saturated, and we're not seeing the same ROI, again, return on investment, that we saw last year or the year prior. So we're making moves over the next few months to scale back and start utilizing different resources, not exactly just internet lead gen, because that is in every industry right now. I mean, I talk to people in the insurance world. They have a huge budget for internet leads. But that's out of our pocket. You know what I mean? We don't get corporate funding like car dealerships or insurance. You know what I mean? So
it's an investment, and it usually has a pretty good return. It's just any time a return diminishes, then as business owners, well, what the hell?
Yeah.
So a few consequences here is, the benefit is, it can lead to tangible business. This is the conversation directed towards agents. You can pick up business from it. If you're not in it and you're doing a lot of listings, well, A, you're not picking up that potential business. B, now you're doing a disservice to your seller client in that, okay, there's these sources out there where, the consumer is looking at your house that you're selling and they're contacting everybody else as an agent versus us as a listing agent.
Or about when their sellers go and look up their house and they're wondering why your phase and information's not there.
Right. So we lose our ability to, properly qualify who's coming through your house that you're selling versus, a lot of times we don't adhere to this model, but a lot of agents on these platforms will just, you contact me, you want to see this house tonight at 6? Okay, I'll meet you there.
Yep.
And they could be a serial killer. They could have a 480 credit score, and you just decide to, meet them at this house. Full disclosure, we've had a lot of success with it. We've met a lot of great people. We've created a lot of clients for life from it. They're just now at a point where they have stockholders to appease, and that's kind of a conversation in itself of all these new companies. There's like one popping up every week. I mean, I think the Purple Bricks example that I threw out isn't really prevalent in this market too much, but it's just like, so here's a company that just popped up out of nowhere that's going to compete directly with this monster that is Zillow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money going around in the private, public sector, Wall Street, whatever you want to call it.
The venture capitalists are loving right now. They're loving real estate
and
technology.
Tech is the way of the world. So those two, real estate, technology, it's a natural fit. So there's a lot of these startup companies going on.
So what's the strategy, though? You're a real estate agent. Your hands kind of forced, right, to
Great
put
question.
some money into this. Do you go full Zillow? What do you?
Let's talk. You're a brand new agent first. The problem with getting into it at a high level when you're developing your business, it's not cheap, and if you don't have a profile that's going to get attention, you're now spending a lot of money. and running into where, not to sound arrogant, but you're going to run into, our profile and other, agents that, because they list number of reviews next to the team and number of sales. So if you're the consumer,
you get some goose eggs on there.
Yeah, are you going to click on the guy who's got a goose egg starting off new? Could be, the next $50 million agent in 5 years. Or are you going to go with, kind of the experience side of things? So that's a risk. The more experienced agent, I think, there's got to be a balance. I mean, this is as much as, we hate the extortion side of it that we call it, it's also a necessary evil. So it's like, if one of these, if everybody's doing it, then and there's some profit around it, okay, is that worth talking about? The problem, the root of the problem, so to speak, is, as a realtor, these sites don't exist if you're doing your job and just staying on top of the people that you know and letting them know, hey, anything you need, you're curious to look at a house, just call me. You just want to see the photos online, I'll email them to you. So if 10, 15 years ago, everybody had that mindset, these companies don't gain the traction that they've gained over the last decade or so.
Yeah.
So, we created, as an industry, we created the problem, so to speak, for ourselves by not being, good enough realtors and staying in touch with the people that we know, because everybody knows, whatever you want to call it, 5 realtors. You just pick one that you're going to, have on speed dial if you have a real estate related question. Well, that doesn't happen. I mean, can you make the argument that it's just the way of the world and nobody wants to talk to anybody anymore and it's easy enough just to pop on your phone? Sure. But, that's also a reason why, there's success with just meeting the random realtor that you've never met before, and now you're out shopping for a house or out listing your house with somebody that you don't know versus somebody that you know.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, the stat shows it's as high as like 88% of consumers won't use the same real estate agent for their next sale or purchase. Those are staggering numbers.
Yeah.
That is scary. So right now, as we're planning for 2019, we're trying to create that hospitality concierge type of environment where if they've never purchased a home, they're going to assume that that's how every experience is, because we're going to service the hell out of them. If they've purchased a home and sold a home, and now they're going to see the difference, they're going to be like, wow, we can't use anybody else. So we're going to be investing more of our time, money, resources into creating that Four Seasons experience, right? Compared to the micro lots or whatever. So we're really focusing on that, because as many units, we're going to close over 400 transactions this year, which really made us sit back and think. It's like, okay, so we're going to close 400 transactions plus, but how many can we put down that are going to 100% use us again? If we could get that number up to 75%, then we would never... To be honest with you, our budget for lead gen is going to be very, very marginal, because we're going to get such a bigger return from past clients, whether they're going to buy again or we're doing such a good job for them, they're going to continue to refer us. Mm-hmm. So that's where it's at. And then you get into cost of sale, because remember, every dollar you spend on lead gen or marketing or advertising, you have to plug that into what your cost of sale is. So yeah, congratulations, you did this much business.
Spent this.
How much does it cost
your
you?
GCI,
Yeah.
your gross commission income compared to your net, like, let's see where that is. Yep. What are you spending on each transaction? Mm-hmm. And that's where a lot of agents get lost. And here's the other issue. I would say 99% plus of the agents, they're not tracking their return on investment. They just see that, hey, we're getting some leads from it. Yeah. I'm getting some sales from it. if you're going to spend $12,000 a year on Zillow and you're saying to yourself, well, you know what? I got $24,000 in commissions from that. You still have other stuff you have to plug into that.
Right.
It's kind of like how you always say it's like running your own business. You got other things to consider with all
And
this.
I mean, so to wrap it up, I mean, Zillow exists because of that stat that he threw out, that 88% of people that have bought a home aren't going to use the same realtor 5 years later. Mm-hmm. If that's flipped over and that's what we're trying to do, I mean, again, 400 homes sold this year. You know, if that stat applies to us, then that means that, you know, what's the math? I mean, under 75 people are going to use us again out of 400.
Right.
Yeah.
That's freaking unacceptable and terrifying.
Terrifying.
So, but that's the reality of, you know, in a market of little old Rochester, there's 2,500, 3,000 agents, and that's how the numbers play out.
Yep.
So if you as an agent change your mindset to make sure that the people that you know, I always call it like, you know, if you're getting married, whoever you're inviting to your wedding, that's your main, you know, set. Those people should never call another realtor. I mean, I know day and age, it's easy enough to hop on your phone and look at a house, but they should know, you should train them to know, don't ever call a realtor on Zillow. Mm-hmm. Taking away from what we do on Zillow. But,
Yeah.
so,
right.
yeah.
All right. Well, you can.
They're capitalizing on the agent's sloppiness is what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not going to end there. Now they're getting into the mortgage world. So their website is going to be, in their eyes, the one-stop shop.
Full service.
The full service, yes. So with that being said, though, the consumers, I feel that they're going to become more savvy because we're going to create the awareness of what's really going on.
Right.
Well, check it out, or check out the podcast and subscribe at AnsWeBeTerraTeam.com. Follow us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. All right, guys, have a good one.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to The Real Estate Show. Find us on Facebook, iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. If you're looking to sell or buy, talk to the Anthony Butera team of Keller Williams Realty, Greater Rochester. Visit AnthonyButeraTeam.com.